And with that, we have some special news to share. 3, 2,
Drum roll,
1.
please.
We're laid off.
We were laid off.
Yes, on the same day.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Within an hour or two of each other.
Yeah, literally. Welcome back, baddies, to another episode of Baddies Mean Business. This is your hosts, Riley Jennings and
Mackenzie Hatfield.
And welcome to a amazing tea spill. We are two 20-year-old girls who grew up in Washington. I live in San Diego now, and Kenzie lives in Kansas City. And we love to talk about the stories of entrepreneurs, creatives, and how things have been in our 20s and navigating life. And with that, we have some special news to share. 3, 2,
Drum roll,
1.
please.
We're laid off.
We were laid off.
Yes, on the same day.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Within an hour or two of each other.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
So today's episode is going to be talking about that experience, and I know we're laughing about it, but it's because it was 2 weeks ago, and we've had our time to think about it. So what we're going to do today is we're going to share a little bit about like how we're feeling, what we've been doing since we've been laid off, and just chat like how we've kind of navigated these next steps, like what we're going to be doing. So you guys are going to get all the details right now, but before we get too far into it, let's go ahead and kick us off with the Baddie Briefing. Kenzie, you want to start?
Sure. So to kick off, if you're new here and haven't heard of the Baddie Briefing, we do a quote of the day or quote of the week, and then we do a favorite of the week. So something we've been loving and enjoying in the past little while. So for my quote today, I feel like it was very timely which is most of the time how I feel like my quotes end up laying out. They're typically like in regards to what we're talking about, or just everything ends up being together. So this one literally just popped up on my Pinterest board earlier today, and it says, "Slow down, you're doing fine." And I know that it's like the most basic, non-groundbreaking, 5 words. Okay, maybe it's not 5. How many words? Anyways, besides the point, not groundbreaking. However, I feel like it's very relevant because sometimes we just gotta slow down. And this whole chapter of like, which we're gonna get into obviously more on the podcast, but just like getting laid off in general, or like, any form of that, or any hard thing that you go through, just got to take a step back, breathe through the process. And so I feel like this was a really good reminder this week of just like, slow down, you're doing fine. Everything's going to be fine. Even if it's not okay right now, it will be fine. So that's my quote of the week. And yeah, what's yours?
Amazing. Okay, so for me, mine ties into what we're going to be talking about today, and it is when we are in transition that we are most completely alive. And that is by William Bridges. I don't know who he is, but I really identified with that statement because it has been probably the most exciting whirlwind of a mind carnival like since that moment. And so, but in a really, really surprisingly shocking way, or like a surprisingly exciting way, I'll put it. So favorites now. I'll just like get mine out of the way. For me, mine is an app. We decided to do apps today. And so for me, mine's called Skip Lagged, and it was shown to me actually by a woman who owns an Airbnb I was trying to rent for Memorial Day weekend. And she was nice enough to share it with me. And what it does is it provides you like pretty killer deals, honestly, that to specific cities that you may want to be traveling to in the next few months. So an example of that, there's a trip to New York from San Diego for like $199 in April. You want to take a trip to New York? Well, now you can, Right. It's pretty cool. And it also does like hotels, and I'm still exploring it, but so far I feel like it's a really interesting thing to kind of like experiment with. So that's mine.
That's super fun. I need to get on that app because it sounds really nice, especially like those being able to work like from home and stuff is nice, or like these times where you're like maybe planning last minute trips, or you're wanting to pre-plan but like don't really have specific days that you need to take off. If it's not like surrounding a holiday or something, those flights are like perfect. So that's super convenient. But as for my app that I have discovered as of recently, is called Yuka. I think is how you pronounce it, Yuka. And it's basically, for those of you who have not heard of it, it is a app that you can scan the barcode of food or products or anything really at like the drugstore, whatever is like registered on the app, and check like the health benefits of them or what they are on the scale of like, I think it's healthy or not healthy. I don't know exactly what the scale is called, but essentially it just like gives you a rating of this product and why. And so it's been really nice to be able to like scan foods that I've been eating and like see what hazards might be in them, if they're preservatives that are not good or if they're not made with a really good clean oil, things like that. And so Josue and I have been using that a ton lately for like our foods and especially our cosmetic products, which I didn't realize that some of even the lotions I was putting on my body were like not good. And so it's just like, no, we're not using it to like distinguish every single thing and then not get it because it has something, because if you're getting a bag of chips, most likely there's some form of preservative in them, and that's just, you give it your take. It's all about balance. But if there are like alternatives to things that we know are good or can be good, it's like been really, really helpful for that. Like for instance, we found alternatives on chips. We found alternatives on like body scrub, body lotion, like random things. And so it was just really cool to like use that app when we're at the grocery store. And like I've even seen people here in KC who like, I'll see them at Target and they're like using the app and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great, like this is so good. So really been loving that app. Highly recommend.
Period. Check it out, guys, out on the app store, and let us know what you think.
Yeah, seriously, let us know.
100%. So okay, let's get into it. So we're about to get really vulnerable with you all. You know, it's not every day I think people are like putting out the fact that they were laid off from their job on the internet and candidly talking about the experience, but we are, so let's talk about it.
Welcome. First, I'm going to crack open my Olipop.
Yes, girl, pop it open.
We have cherry cola. Have not tried her yet. So
next to the mic. Next to the mic.
Hold on.
That was so satisfying. That was so satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a second. You have no idea. I can't wait for you to hear that back. That was killer.
Wait, why? That is good though. Ready?
This is not an ad. None of these are ads.
This is not an ad, but we do love Olipop and Poppy. Those are in our heart.
Yes, just a
our
fan.
Probiotic sodas. Anyways, but that was just a brief intermission that I needed to introduce because we like ASMR.
ASMR girls out here. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so we were both laid off on the very same day. Wild, right? Very wild. So mine came first. I got a call in the morning. Deed was done. I was like, whoa, that was out of body experience. It's definitely the first thing comes to your mind. Oh shit, my income.
Right.
What's happening now?
100%.
That was definitely the first thought in my mind. Was just like, okay, well, shoot, that was like a whole major shift, and it's like you don't really like go and try to plan for it. I mean, you definitely can have thoughts in your mind, but it's just like one day, just it happens, and then you have no other choice but to go with it, and your mind is just in a whirl. So Mackenzie's experience with it is a little different. Because she was a contractor for a firm, and for me, I was a W-2, so we can kind of share just different perspectives in that way, which will be, I think, hopefully a little helpful.
Yeah.
But for me, that was my initial thought, and so I thank God I live with my cousin. I just went to her room and we just started chatting it up, and just getting all those initial feelings out of the way. But for you, Kenzie, like, what were your initial thoughts?
So my initial thoughts I did not see it coming, but I also know that like, unfortunately it comes with contracting and freelance work is like, sometimes those changes happen really abruptly, very fast and like out of the blue. And so it's not that I wasn't really fully expecting it, but I was not surprised when it happened, I should say. And so like Riley mentioned, I was contracted for a company out of San Diego and was doing like about 3 clients for them. And then it dropped down to 1. And so I was like kind of thinking that like that was the straw, whatever. And then got fully terminated like the day of, a couple hours after Riley and I were chatting about her situation. So basically I'm fine because I am right now while I'm like figuring things out, but I still have my client in Yakima that I still help with, which is my dentist office. And they're fantastic, and I still have that income stream, and then I'm also working on a different project for them this month and like a couple months moving forward. So it actually like worked out well that like I ended that when I was starting up a new project. So like I know that something in here is going to have reward, and I'm just waiting for that. But I think it was more just like, man, I was going to be really set this month and like in the upcoming months because I just moved across country. So I'm like rebuilding my savings up a little bit, and all these factors, just like everybody has something. And so that was one of the things, like I was like, oh crap, my whole entire like 50% of my income is just cut off right now. So that sucks. But at the same time, I was like already kind of like, once I get a new job, like I'll probably let them go because I won't need to do additional freelance work. And if I do, then maybe I'll ask to do it like a client, like a one client, and that's it. But yeah, it was just kind of like a weird all over situation. And I think for me, being freelance for the past like 6 months has been like a whole navigating process in itself. And so when like changes happen within it, I'm still just trying to like figure out how to navigate those properly. And yeah, so now I guess transitioning to that, is there anything you wanted to say before we got into like things that we've been thinking of and learning and doing? And
I kind of just want to sit on the thought process and how our like thoughts have evolved over the time. Because for me, so okay, this is 2 weeks we're talking about, and day one, I was already, I was very quick to like jump on calls and like, hey, like this is just what's going on. Because for one, it was on a Monday. Which is like, oh shoot, I had this entire week planned of things that I was going to do, and all of a sudden they just vanish, which honestly it can be a pretty relief when you have a lot going on. So my initial thoughts were like, okay, I have meetings. Okay, how do I cancel those meetings? Because when you lose access, like to everything, like your form of contact to people through that firm or business or company. So that's like, okay, well, how do I mediate those? Those are kind of like my initial thoughts. And so I'm very grateful that I had people, because when I jumped onto calls with like mentors I've had, friends of mine in the industries or people I've worked around. I was just letting them know kind of just like what's happening, because just to kind of trying to close out things. I don't know. That was just my initial thought that I wanted to do, was just contact people and communicate what was going on. Yeah. Thank God I did that, because there was folks that I contacted who have also been laid off fairly recently, like within the last 5 years, which is kind of wild to me how common it was, honestly. Like I talked to like every 1 in 3 people I talked to, like one of them had been laid off, like or one, maybe once or even twice, which is crazy to me. I never thought about it. Thank God I called them, because they really reassured me. They're like, dude, like chill out. Like, it's okay. Like, you don't have to figure out what's next. Like today, it's been like 5 hours. Like, why don't you take a couple days to just kind of digest? And thank God they said that, because I do believe that a mourning period is so helpful to have. Because like, when you think about it, like you have this identity of who you are for however long you were at that company. Some people, like, they've been at a company for 8 years. I talked to somebody who said that, and then all of a sudden it's gone. For me, it was a year. So it's like, who was I? Listen, to a whole persona identity that I was for a year, all of a sudden is no longer who I am. And that's really not who I am, but you kind of understand to a point what that can mean, because it's an industry that you're a part of and a community. And so I think the best thing ever was like people encouraging me to take a mourning period, because it's like, okay, really digest, like this is who you are. You're still that person. You're just not doing this anymore, but you at least gain that skill set. Like you've done this before. So there's so many lessons to come from it. There's so many good things to come from it. And honestly, if you boil it down, like what I said in my quote, it's a really, really exciting moment, honestly, when you realize, whoa, whatever, I have every option in the world to choose where to go next. So that's kind of how my thought process evolved, honestly, within like probably 48 to 72 hours.
Mine was kind of that situation too. I was like, and that kind of went into the idea of like understanding freelance and understanding that position of like it could change at any point, and that's the hard part about it. And so I was a little upset because it was like, yeah, I mean, now I have to like really start planning, but I was already in the mindset of like, okay, keep looking into like, projects that you could start or companies that you could work with or companies that you could like get hired on with. And so just like I was already in that job seeking mindset. So that did help. But at the same time, like, I agree. I think you need that grieving period. So I gave myself, I think, what day was it? It was a Monday. So I gave myself like the rest of that day. And I actually, one thing that I did, which is leading into like kind of things that we've been doing already that have like, got our spark back or whatever. Immediately that night, I've been just lately thinking like how much I've been wanting to get back into content creation and like creating videos and being more active on socials. And so I immediately that night like recorded 2 videos for TikTok and just was trying to like get my mind off of it by also being productive. And not to say that you have to be productive like the day of, but for me, that's just something that like is an outlet for me that I enjoy. And so whether or not I posted it or not, I still was like doing something that got my mind off of it instead of just like sitting and doing nothing, which is also what I did. After I did those things, I sat and I watched my favorite show and I like, decompressed a little bit and gave myself the afternoon and the evening and the next day to just kind of like think. And I feel like that was very helpful because Riley and I are the kind of people who are like, okay, what's next? Like,
I was like, is that, I know it's like, well, it's like, there's that whole situation. I stand by this quote or like this framework where it's just like, there's times where you're tasked to make a big decision in your life. And then there's other times where life makes the decision for you. And so this was just one of those moments where life made the decision for me.
Yeah.
And so it was really like there's just so many directions you can go from there. So I think just like sitting down for a second and being like just taking that day is a really important. So like that first initial 24 hours is just a freaking roller coaster just because all these things you had planned, like what your year looked like is completely changed. All of a sudden you have so much free time and it's like, whoa, like what do you do with that? Yeah. So it's just a really interesting experience overall psychologically. But I think what was really something I think I'm glad I did was just sitting down and thinking about, okay, what were the things in that role that I'm really proud of that I did, and what are the things I know I could have improved on. Like there's so many mistakes that were made, and it's like, okay, well, how can I never do those again? And a lot of it honestly just boiled down to the fact that I felt like I really was let my mind kind of just psych me out and really taking advantage of my full potential of what it could have been in that role. And it really just came down to me, like, I'm the problem, I'm the villain. But I guarantee, like, whatever I do next, my goal is to never ever let like outside pressures or whatever it may be just like kind of affect how I think or how I know I can work. Like having an opinion and being willing to say it outwardly, communicating just more frequently is like, I think the biggest lesson I got out of that reflection.
Well, I think there's also a lesson within that of like, not to get super extremely deep, but you have to go through these kind of things in order to know and to like get that flip of a switch sometimes. Because I mean, for me, we're all still figuring that out of like trying to not let opinions of other people or like outside perspectives or, society determine whether or not like this is a good fit for us or this is like going to make the money or this is, going to do whatever, make me happy. And so I think that's a really good takeaway from this experience for you because you learning that this young and like have had such a prominent role this young and then able to like get laid off and then have that experience, like it is truly like what you said in your quote, like exciting, and there's like so much to be like looking forward to no matter and it's good that you have that mindset no matter how upset you are in the moment, like to know that you're like, I'm okay, I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna be mad about it for like a day, I'm gonna be sad about it for like a day, I'm gonna question a lot of things for a day, but after that I'm gonna take the next steps and do what's best for me, and that's all you can do.
I think the next thing too is like I'm really glad that, so for one, the reflectionary period was something I'm really glad just took a second to do that, and then two, the best thing, I was so freaking grateful that I had like people that I could call, I think that's the second thing that I'm like, oh my god, like when it's a very like, you don't want to feel lonely in that moment.
Right.
And the fact that you could have people that could provide opportunity to you and whatever, like just emotional support or genuine like next work or whatever it be. That was something I'm just like, oh man, like if I had to like ever tell somebody like when they're in a role to do something, it's just talk to everybody. Like make sure you really got that group of people that could really bring you like that support if things were to go unexpected. So
Absolutely.
crazy.
Shout out to you people out there.
Shout out
All the good
on
people.
God. Yeah. So that's what makes things so exciting is just like you know, and you get to a point, I think, or like I got to a point where it's just like, well, the world is the oyster, is our oyster.
Yes,
like all of those things you think about in your head and dream about in your head, you could do it now. You can do it right now.
Yes,
Why not?
Why not?
Why not? So that kind of goes into the next point that I think we'll talk about is just like the steps and like what was, I think for me, what was crazy about that experience was I feel like every sign that came after it just kind of pointed into the direction that this is how it should be. Not say how it should be.
To happen.
Yeah, like it was weird, just like little things. Like for one, me and Kenzie having it happen on the same day. That's one thing. Two, being able to share it with other people and people just being like, oh, well, you could do this, this, and this, and like I'll connect you with this person and this person. That's another sign. And then the third sign, and I think this is why it's really cool to be able to be like sit there and be like, dude, like things really just don't happen just to happen sometimes. Like you really gotta read the signs. And the last thing I think for me was like I flew home the day after it happened because I was going to go home for Easter. And I told my parents, blah, blah, blah. And then when I was flying back to San Diego just this last Tuesday, I met a woman on the plane and we just got to talking and she invited me to this real estate conference that she was speaking at here in San Diego. And I went there for the last few days and like there's like a whole new opportunity presented that I never even thought would even happen. And it all just started with like conversation on the plane ride. Like there's all these signs that are just like, oh, I'll be okay.
Yep.
We'll be fine, girl.
You're gonna be fine.
We're gonna be fine, girl.
Yeah.
But anyways, so it's pretty cool to kind of go through that roller coaster, but really see like how much you can do in this world. Like you having the time to do it. It is really exciting. And the financial part will come. Like you'll figure out how to make money, and
we're so young.
Yeah, like, we're also. Yeah, like if you're gonna get laid off, might as well do it now when you're like no obligations really, no children, no mortgage, nothing like that.
Exactly. The risk isn't as intense as it would be if we were like,
yes,
you know. I mean, I think even then though we would still hopefully have this perspective of like, yeah, it's gonna be okay. But obviously, like we are very grateful that because we're in these circumstances of like, we know we're going to be fine and financially we're going to be okay. Like that helps the process a lot more. And so I am personally, and I know Riley is too, very grateful that those circumstances like that, this happened at this time if it was going to happen, you know?
Yeah. 100%. So it's like now looking to the future, y'all. Like, what are we doing? What are we most excited about? Like, there's so much to be excited about, honestly. So Ken's like, what are you excited about? Like, what's the thing? What'd you learn? Like, out of the learnings you got from this experience, what do you think is next?
I think for me, it's really buckling down. Like, what do I want, and how do I get that? And that's very vague, but like, how do I want to pursue like trying to find a job in the industry, or am I pursuing like more clientele that I can start, like doing social media management for and things like that? So what direction do I want to take? And I think currently I'm in the freelance mindset still of like, I still want to be actively asking clients, and like my goal with this transition is to revamp up my portfolio. That's what I've been working on. Redo my resume because I haven't updated that in a little bit. And so I'm just super excited to like check all those boxes and start. My goal is to like email companies in KC and go visit them in person and ask them if they have like social media help, whatever, and if I could be a resource to them. Another thing that I've been doing too is leaning into like creative stuff. So doing more TikTok and like other social platforms and having that be more fun. And I really want to like buckle down and start doing that more and at least be like a little bit more consistent and like have some sort of a presence. But because I've already seen like so much reward in that and just like just in like my soul in general, just like feeling more productive and feeling more excited for my job. And so creatively motivated. And so, yeah, I think for me, I'm still kind of figuring that out. But I think as of right now, I'm like excited for the next couple of months. And Josue's going to be super busy with his job. And so it makes it easier for me to like not feel like I'm getting FOMO and just like focus on our projects and stuff. And we really want to, I don't know, collaboratively, now that we're both kind of on the same level, is just like helping each other out and seeing what like sources we can be to each other and through the podcast. And so yeah, kind of vague, but I'm still figuring it out. My first order of business is just updating all the important stuff and keep connecting with people and trying to get connections in KC, things like that. But yeah, what about you?
Okay, so first of all, I love that though, because I just like that is really your superpower, is like your creativity. For me, it's in a similar light. There's like, so I'll break this up. Each thing I'm going to talk about is going to be broken up into threes. So for the first thing, I'll just like say, I think these last 2 weeks of reflection have gotten me to this place. And so 3 things I know I can get into that I really love, I'm passionate about, and I think I could do pretty well. So it's community, content, and real estate. Those have always been in my mind. Those have always kind of had some all my work has had a similar common theme when it came to that stuff. When I did events, when it came to podcasting and just overall strategy stuff, when it came to learning the stories of different founders, or now in listening to the stories of other people and other organizations, that all seems to tie in. So, and then real estate's always been in the back of my mind. It's always been like, my parents were realtors. I always knew it was going to be a part of my life in some way. And so maybe it can come along quicker. We don't know. We don't know yet. The next 3 things I'll say is like, now I've set kind of standards, like whatever I do next, it needs to be part of these 3, like it needs to incorporate these 3 things. Those 3 things are I can pick up and leave whenever I want. I can go remote. I can do whatever I want. 2, I control what I do. Like I want to work for myself. I want to be the decision maker, like everything I do. And then the last thing is like, I just want to have fun doing it. And so if it can incorporate whatever I do next, if it can incorporate those 3 things, I'm all for it. And that's something I really want to be really disciplined on, because I don't think there's very rare that you have an opportunity like this to be like very committed to something like that. So, and then the next 3 things is the 3 things I want to do with this newfound, journey. Freedom. Is I want to move to Europe like next year, like full send. Why not? It's actually cheaper to rent an Airbnb there for a month than it is to pay my rent. Like on God, it's crazy. Like in France and Italy, those places too, it's crazy. So it's like, why not? Like, why delay all these dreams that you always set aside for the future? It's just like, maybe I'm slightly unhinged right now. Not really, because I really have. Why not do these things? Like, why? And so if I stick to those 3 standards I said before, why couldn't I do the things that everybody dreams about, which is traveling? So that's in the works. I know
you can do it.
Bugs. And I'm gonna put it out there in the public. Put it out in public. Yeah. One thing that they did say at this real estate conference, which was really, really cool. There's many things that were really cool, and I wrote them down in my notes. But one thing they said is like, if you put your goals out in public, you really it helps keep you disciplined. So I'm going to do that right now. And hopefully anyone who can listen to this, they can be enlightened or empowered to do the same, because it's scary. This like entire experience is so scary. It's very vulnerable, but it's like, it's not that serious. Whatever. Things happen, really does. And you just got to really roll with the punches. Yeah. So here is us rolling with the punches, Rocky style.
2023, we're coming for you. This next 8 months, don't even get me started.
Don't even get me started. So I hope any closing thoughts for you, Kens?
I would just say if you're going through a similar experience to Riley and I, or even if you're not, and, you know, always have like a lingering, you know, concern or like, you know, scared of things like this, just know that like it's gonna be okay. You're gonna be awesome. And there's something that's gonna be out there for you that's going to make all of this make sense, even if you don't know it now. And that goes for everything in life. And so I think this is just a reminder, like just coming from us, like from the girls, just saying like, hey, we're going through it right now too, and that we know that we're going to make it out on the other end because we have each other. And so if you have any questions at all, obviously like contact us. Our DMs are always open if you're experiencing anything remotely close to this or just something in the same ballpark. We're here. And so keep chugging away. It's going to be all right. And you got this. That's my hot take. That's my stance.
We got you, girl. We got you, girl.
My 2 cents.
That's crazy. But, you know, go ahead and reach out to us. I hope you guys got a little bit of something out of this. If you're curious to learn more, like Mackenzie said, DM us. But as always, we will talk to you all next week.
Wednesday.
Pew, pew, pew.
Bye, baddies.
Bye, baddies.
See you next week.